The 80s had the General. The 90s had John Gilligan. In the noughties, it was the reign of Martin Marlowe Hyland. His was a familiar path with success and power, and then the recklessness. He had to go, because with him, an innocent young man doing an honest day's work died. Crime World presents Caught in the Crossfire, the unsolved murders of Coke Kingpin Marlowe Hyland and innocent Anthony Campbell. Available now on all podcast platforms.
Hello?
Gareth.
Hello.
Hiya, how are you?
Not bad.
Okay. It's Nicola Talent. I don't know whether we got cut off last time or you just didn't want to talk to me.
Nicola, I've not to say to you.
Have you not?
I've not to talk about crime with you. So.
Oh yeah, well it's not about, actually, it's more about your current work, your new career.
Look, listen, I let the work speak for itself. I've nothing to say about it to you, okay?
Yeah, well,
I don't like what you're right and I'm not interested in what you're right, okay?
Well,
so,
that's because it doesn't always go your direction, I suppose. But
look,
I'm just wondering...
And I don't want to be smart with you, but I've nothing to say to you, okay?
Yeah, but I'm just wondering, right, how you feel that you have a skill set to heal people from the likes of diseases like cancer? Where did your...
No, here, listen, I don't heal. I channel it. That's all I can say, okay?
And what does that mean?
I'm a medium, okay? I channel the healing energy.
Right.
I work with a team from heaven. That's what it is.
And when did this sort of...
Look, listen, it's on my website. Good luck. Bye-bye.
That's Gareth Quinn.
Yeah.
He's a little bit confused maybe as to why I'm ringing him, but of course we have an interest in him because he has come on our radar quite a lot in the past. But you came across this website or whatever it is as you were surfing the internet, and you sent me a link and said, do you recognise this guy? And then you sent me a story I had written about Gareth Quinn some years ago.
Yeah.
And Gareth Quinn is a cousin of James Quinn, who is currently serving a life sentence, or certainly a lengthy sentence, for the murder of Gary Hutch in Spain. James Quinn would have been a key member and a very close associate of Daniel Kinahan and a member of the Kinahan organised crime group. Gareth Quinn has a history in criminality as well, which we'll get to. But he has reappointed himself, I suppose, in recent years as being what he calls a psychic surgeon. Now, from our brief conversation there, he obviously doesn't want to talk to me because he doesn't like what I write.
Yeah.
But he's certainly talking to the people on YouTube. He has plenty of social media out there. He talks about healing and absent healing, and you can book it through his website. He is saying all healing is free, but he does accept a donation. He won't discuss his spiritual, the moment, I suppose, he transformed from criminal to psychic surgeon. He won't discuss that with us, but we're going to have a little look, I think, at how he sort of describes himself to those who maybe don't know his background.
Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. I'm Gareth, a psychic surgeon based in Clondalkin, Dublin. I work with a team from heaven, healing pain, illness and disease of the mind, the body and the soul. I can never guarantee an outcome with this work, but no healer can. Because we don't do the work. Our teams in heaven, Ashrahal, and the other surgeons who work with, they blend with us to heal the sick. And we are getting some amazing results. We're getting results ranging from mild to very strong to complete removal of symptoms.
He's working with a team from heaven.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you have to look at Gareth Quinn in this way, that he was a very serious criminal figure. He is a relation, as you said, of James Quinn, but also a relation of Martin the Viper Foley. And he was a member of a very serious armed robbery gang back in the day that were associated with Foley and some of his operations. Gareth Quinn was kind of at the pinnacle of that world. So it's clearly better that he's involved in healing than it is that he remains involved in armed robbery. So he has obviously set himself up as a psychic surgeon. So how do we feel about that, I suppose? So if I can answer from my own perspective, Like, we do stories all the time about healers and what they claim to offer, I suppose, to people, independent of their background in criminality or not. You know, he says that a number of years ago, he started to see spirits, I think at the age of 42, so he's 48 or 49 now, and that he was told, you can carry on as you are, or you can give it all up and become involved in, if you want to work with these angels or whatever. And then subsequent to that, at that point he was acting as a medium, contacting people in the afterlife, and subsequent to that they told him he was developing in a new direction, and if he wanted to become involved in healing, and that's what he did. So he has also a YouTube channel, and I suppose for me, as I'm a skeptic of this stuff, you know.
Oh, so am I, obviously.
Well, not everybody is, right? And I suppose there is a distinction to be said between, there's an image, I suppose, if you go back to it, you can see it on his YouTube channel, where there's a child, and Gareth Quinn is, and, you know, respectfully, I suppose, laying his hands on the girl's head, and it says treating for brain cancer, I think is the tag on the video. Now that, for me, is something that has to be called into question, I suppose. If people are suffering from cancer, there is laws in this country about what alternative healers can offer them, I suppose. Now, Gareth Quinn is careful to say that he doesn't guarantee results. He claims to be able to help, not necessarily
he's
cure.
Not looking for a fee, he's looking for a donation.
Okay. And the other thing is then, like...
And he also says he's not a healer. He says he's channeling healing through the sick person and the team in heaven that he's working with.
Yeah. So, personally, from looking at his videos, I think he believes what he says.
Yeah, well, he possibly does. He possibly does.
However...
I mean, you'd want to have some belief in it, would you?
Not necessarily. I mean, there are...
out there as well.
Yeah, there are full-on charlatans, and then there's people who believe in it. Personally, I don't believe that a spiritual medium can have any impact on cancer. I mean, that is a belief that I have. I do think that it's important that these things are shown to be what they are. I mean, people laying their hands on sick children, not because it's inappropriate in the manner in which they lay hands, but offering those sort of treatments for very serious illnesses. Personally, I don't think it's morally right, whether the person believes they're helping or not.
But do you believe that he believes that what he's doing is... why doesn't he talk to us then? Why does he not want to speak? Because he doesn't like the...
Well, because, look, Gareth Quinn was involved in, I suppose... Some of these things get forgotten about in the fullness of time, don't they? But if you go back to the turn of the century, the Abbey Leaks robbery was probably the biggest crime story of, you know, for a long period of time. What basically happened was there was an armed robbery was planned. The Gardaí seems to have had pre-knowledge of it. So they were effectively staking it out, waiting for the bank robbers to come along. Gareth Quinn was one of those bank robbers. There was a plan, I think, to get a couple of million. I can't remember if it was to do with the delivery of money or not, but the guards certainly were aware of what was happening at the time. The robbers came to the scene. They were confronted by the Gardaí. They fled the scene. A number of shots were fired, and one of a guard at the scene was killed by what's described as friendly fire, basically. He was shot. He died as a result, I think, of a bullet ricocheting that was fired by the Gardaí. So obviously Gareth Quinn and his associates were not convicted of anything in relation to the shooting. However, Gareth Quinn was ultimately sentenced to 10 years in prison. It was one of those huge scandals for a number of reasons. You know, it involved when the Gardaí should have taken action. Should they have allowed it go as far as they did? There was a lot of debate about that and about the use of firearms. But there's no doubt that ultimately a dangerous armed robbery had been planned by one of the more sophisticated armed robbery gangs operating in the state at the time. Gareth Quinn was a very senior member of it. He actually went on the run for a period of time before he was eventually caught and convicted.
Is he in jail when he has this spiritual moment and realises that he's a spiritual healer?
No, because he came out again.
What year?
Well, I don't know exactly, but say sometime around the turn of the 2010. At that point, again, he features in the Sunday World, not for his past crimes, but for his association with a gang in the west of Dublin that were manufacturing ecstasy tablets. He appears in the Sunday World at the scene of this. There's also then he is named in connection with a cab investigation into a very close relative of his.
That was in 2021.
Yes. Now, he wasn't a respondent in that case.
He was originally listed along with his partner as a respondent, but when it came to settling the case, it was just his own son, Dylan Nolan Quinn, who came forward and took full responsibility for all the items. And I covered that case at the time. He signed a Section 4 order. Dylan Nolan Quinn, I think he was described as a barber, and it allowed the cab dispose of this sort of loot they had seized during a search. And it was all these designer goods, actually, that they had. And there was a big list of shoes, handbags, scarves, jewellery, coats, all this sort of stuff. Everything was covered from Gucci to Chanel. The handbags, it was never quite understood why Dylan Nolan Quinn claimed ownership of all these handbags, etc., and some of them high heel shoes, etc. But he did nonetheless. But he was basically living in a terraced property in Clondalkin, which was the home of his father, Gareth Quinn, and his partner, Jane Nolan. There were 75 items in total taken out of that house during a proceeds of crime case, and the searches were occurred under the proceeds of crime legislation. So there was an account containing €70,000 that was discovered, and there was some high-end cars included in it, along with these wardrobes full of the designer goods. So Gareth Quinn and Jane Nolan faced no further action with it because the son came forward and basically said everything was his and signed it over. He was a hairdresser, yes, and he had a business called Cuts and Bruises in Lucan and a Rocket barber shop in Clondalkin as well at that time. There was a lot of gear there, a lot of kit coming out of that house. There's no suggestion, obviously, that Gareth Quinn was making money from his psychic healing.
No, I mean...
to buy designer gear. But
no, well, I mean, look, the son took responsibility and that's accepted by the court, and, that's what's there in the public record. But that's why Gareth Quinn doesn't want to talk to you, I suppose, more than likely. But I suppose he's set his stall out in terms of being a psychic healer. It can be read about, you can watch the videos yourself. But there is a broader conversation to be had about... what do we allow people to do when they set themselves up as healers? I mean, if you're to set yourself up as a doctor, you have to provide certain qualifications. You have to be subject to certain regulations. You have to, there's oversight bodies, there's medical councils, there's the courts, all of these things. Healing is a different matter. I mean, what is the regulation for that? In fairness to him, he sets it out that he's not claiming to be able to cure anything. However, what are the people who are going to him? How do they perceive it?
And who's, you talk about regulations and stuff like that. Like, is the onus on the individuals who go to him to not understand or know that?
Well, there's a bill that's gone through the Dáil at the moment, and it's about people offering sort of medical cures, about making it illegal. And it is illegal to say I can cure cancer effectively. You're not allowed to do that. However, you go into this grey area. Obviously, look, there's probably maybe even the majority of people believe to a degree in alternative treatments. But what you have at the moment is a formula of words that can be used that can mean that you're not subjected to any oversight at all. And that formula of words is to say, this alternative treatment, whatever you want it to be, psychic, energy, herbs, whatever it is, prayers, anything. As long as you say, I can help, and I'm not guaranteeing I can cure, that this can really help. And I have all these people, testimonials, who say they had this brilliant effect. But as long as you're not making any medical claims, you can do whatever you want.
But he is making claims of having great success at this. So it's all in a grey area, isn't it? And it's just
in a grey area.
Helpful use of language. Let's just have another little listen to what he has to say here.
You may be very skeptical of this work, and lots of people are. It's hard to believe. But the proof is in the pudding. Why not try it out? If you're suffering, you've got nothing to lose. The healing is free. The healing is, I prefer to accept a donation. So you're welcome to book this healing from WhatsApp. You can drop me a message. You can book it from the website, GarethQuinnMedium.com. And why suffer in pain? God bless everyone, and thanks for tuning in. Take care and enjoy your day.
I would have thought that's pretty close to the bone.
It's close to the bone. It's certainly not over the line. And you can see he knows what that line is, and he's careful not to cross it. Mm-hmm. But if you look on the YouTube channel, you will see a number of people receiving these treatment and giving testimonial about how they were helped.
And we'll just have a very quick look at the video you were alluding to about the brain cancer.
Yeah, I was born with.
I remember I was on the phone to you. I was telling you that Aaron had a cyst on his brain, and they wanted to operate and stuff. Well, we went and we got another MRI scan or whatever, and the cyst is gone now, or it's not there. So I just think I was only just thinking, and I was like, you sent me on the details for that guy's number that does healing and stuff, and I'm just thinking now something's obviously after happening, because the other MRI, it's not there where they seen it before, and they couldn't figure it out. So
can people change ultimately? I mean, we're looking at Gareth Quinn's background, his links to high-level criminality. For some reasons, jumping to mind is a couple of others who have had these sort of spiritual journeys, but who ultimately, I don't think, have changed.
Well, I mean, if you ask me, I think people can change. There's a school of thought that I think they say 60% of all serious crimes are committed by about, I can't remember the exact figure, but let's say 2 or 3% of the population. And that these are people that qualify in that sort of sociopathic diagnosis. So they're people that commit high-level violent crimes of a type which Gareth Quinn has been convicted of, armed robbery. And that these people, they commit a huge bulk of crimes up until there's something in their mid-30s, and then they tend to burn out. And, there's a few that keep going, but a lot of them, by the time they hit their 40s, their days of criminality are kind of come to an end. Now, not all of them, absolutely, but some of them. Now, I think somebody like Gareth Quinn, I look at that now and I think he is probably being sincere. But, again, it's a curious thing to get involved in, isn't it? There's many other ways to help society if you get changed, isn't there?
Yeah, you could go into debt collection.
Well, you could go into, there's many people that have been involved in criminality at a high level that you see them. I know some of them that get involved in community work, very low key, doing great work in their communities. I mean, I just think this is kind of a curious thing, and you wonder is even if he believes it, to be honest, seeing I think for example, there's the name of the child, and it says, one of the videos on the YouTube, it says, gives the first name of the child and says brain cancer healing. It really it makes me
Get off the fence.
It makes me deeply uncomfortable.
Deeply uncomfortable. Here's a
And,
convicted criminal
well, no,
claiming that he is a
but
spiritual
beyond-
healer and taking donations from members of the public who are desperate, presumably, to find a cure for their
suffering.
kids or for themselves or whatever. You know, I don't like it at one bit.
Neither do I. And, you know, and I know there's people who believe in
Whether
this.
he's sincere or not, it doesn't make a difference.
And I know there's people who believe in this and say, you know, he's not doing any harm, but, you know, it's something that needs to be discussed.
I mean, we've done so many articles over the years on a lot of these healers and cult leaders and people claiming that they can, you know, put their hands on and cure people for life. They've all been total charlatans.
They have.
I don't know of a single that I can think of that, well, of course, we were only writing about the ones that are charlatans perhaps, but I've sat and listened to so many people's stories. I mean, they're victims essentially, but who have willingly handed over their money because they believe something. And a lot of these people are just complete frauds and they're pocketing the money in they have a skill set all right.
Yeah.
And that's to be convincing and to convince people to part with their money.
Yeah.
That's their skill set.
They are. A lot of them are complete frauds. Many of them are members of the Catholic Church as well over the years. So let's...
listen, don't start me on them.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with you completely on that. But I mean, you know, like this whole area seems to be, you know, you have a customer base there or a clientele there that is extremely vulnerable for many reasons. Some of it to do with mental health, some of it to do with desperation, some of it to do with people seeking something, some spirituality and all the rest of it. And I don't know, floating within that arena, you have the likes of Gareth Quinn with his spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
And he has a team in heaven he's working with.
Yeah.
Call me a cynic, Niall, but...
Well, I mean, call me a cynic because I'm generally not that cynical, but I'm cynical about this sort of stuff. I mean, I'm not saying it should be illegal or he should be drummed out of society, but people are still free to make whatever choices they want. A lot of people believe in these things, but like it's, you know, there's people in really, really desperate circumstances who are really crying out for a magical answer to a very serious problem. And I don't think that magical answer is in the hands of Gareth Quinn, personally.
No, nor I. Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
I'm Nicola Tallant and you're watching Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs and the underworld in Ireland and across the globe. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you can be the first to watch all our latest episodes. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts.